What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Speaking Sessions podcast. I've got my great friend, Jon Vander Hoek here, and he is a financial advisor, an amazing networker, a new father, a longtime husband, and just an all-around great guy. And I've gotten to really enjoy getting to know him. And some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, he's actually helped me be able to navigate through. And that's really tough conversations, but more specifically around financial matters when you're talking with your spouse. But before we get into today's episode, I want to get to know you a little bit more, Jon. So tell the audience about you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Philip, man. I think I'll bring you around more often to introduce me. I like the way you do that. So you're good at that. So yeah, a little bit about me. So I actually started in this industry over 10 years ago, and I never wanted to be in this industry. My dad was a pastor, my mom was a nurse, and they didn't know anything about money. So I'm excited to have the conversations that we're going to have today. And the only reason I went to college was because I was a college basketball player, and I ended up studying business. And I had a friend who introduced me to who would be my future mentor, who had to chase me around for 2 years. But now we just absolutely fell in love with this industry. And like Philip said, yeah, I've got a 4 month old baby, been married for over 5 years. We went to high school together, and just really loving living in Greenville, South Carolina, because we moved here 2 years ago.
Mm. And so just to get some of your personal background here and the way that you tick, because you kind of mentioned this whole, oh, this guy chased me around for 2 years, but I also know that you chased your wife for a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. So tell us a little bit about that, because I think that helps bring out your personality and what makes you such a great advisor and great at having these tough conversations.
Sure. I guess we'll just put it out there right away that I'm not very good at sales, man. Just throwing me under the bus from the beginning. So, yeah, I met my wife when I was a freshman in high school, and we were always kind of seeing other people, but we're always close friends. So, yeah, we actually were just friends for about 14 years. So, I had to consistently check in with her, call her, different things like that. She went to Texas Christian and then went to Savannah School of the Arts in Savannah, Georgia. And I was going to college in Colorado, but we just really stayed in touch for a long time. And then we had the most awkward 3 or 4 months where we were figuring out if we were going to get married or, not be friends ever again type of conversation. So I had a really awkward 3 to 4 months, but then we were, quickly dated not that long, then got engaged and then got married quickly after that, just because we knew each other so well. And that's really what I've had to do over my career too, is just consistently let people know I care about them, stay in touch with them. Often am not talking about what I do or business, but just really getting to know people professionally and on a personal level. And then that ends up a lot of times, obviously, people get it. Hey, Jon and Lisa care about us more than just a dollar sign. And our industry is not always that way. So that it shows people that. And then a lot of times they open up and want to have conversations because I'm following up with them and staying in touch with them.
Yeah, and that's definitely how it worked with us, because I know at the time I was working with what I thought was a financial advisor, later to find out it was not a financial advisor. We're going to leave that alone. But I will say that you have to be a pretty good salesperson, because it took you 14 years, but you got out of the friend zone. Most guys can't get out of the friend zone, but I don't want to beat that dead horse there. But that's really how you did the follow up, how you were always just, trying to connect and have the conversation and get to know Lisa, is exactly what you do with financial advising. And since we're kind of on this subject, I know we were going to talk about networking a little bit as well. I want to go there first, and then we're going to circle back around to the conversation about having conversations around finances with your spouse, because to me, it's a little bit better segue there. But when it comes to networking, you moved here, it's been about a year and a half ago at this point, to the Greenville, South Carolina area. And it could be just because we're in the same circles and everything, but everybody I talk to knows you. And again, you've only been here for a year and a half. And then people are like, wow, Jon knows everybody. So tell us a little bit about how you go about networking to help us get better with that communication.
Thanks, Philip. Yeah. And I think this applies to any professional salesperson or business owner. It doesn't matter if you're in my industry or not. I always just focus on helping other people out and making connections and things like that. And I don't go into a meeting like, hey, what can I squeeze out of Philip in this meeting? How am I going to close him? Or what benefit is he going to give me? I'm always just asking people good questions about their goals and dreams, what they want to do, what they want to accomplish, and who are good connections for them. And then just being very intentional about thinking about who I know and making those connections via text or via email. So that way it's a warm introduction for people that they actually get together. And my business is all about relationships and if people like and trust you. It's not about the fancy charts that you show people and different things like that. Often people don't care about that. And people don't want to talk to me until they know that we have a solid relationship and there's that like and that trust and that credibility built anyway. So I don't even bother bringing up the topics and things like that until we're to that point because I know it's not going to do any good. Or their cousin might be their financial advisor or their brother or their sister. So it wouldn't matter how much better of a job I could do anyways if that they have that strong of a relationship. So why even bring it up? So I really am intentional about just connecting people. And I knew, hey, I don't know anyone because we moved here cold turkey. Didn't know a single person and only come here once. So I knew I had to get out there in the community. So that's all I did is I found people via social media. Even though I'm not, big on social media, I just looked at the people on Facebook and LinkedIn who seemed like they were great centers of influences. And I asked them to have coffee and lunch and different things like that and let them know, hey, I'm new to the area, which was completely true. I really could use your help. And I shared a little bit about us and what we did and things like that, but just really was asking people genuinely for help to connect me to other credible people who knew people. And that's all I did when I moved here.
Man, that's really cool. And for those of you that have listened to the fact that I did my first event back in August of last year, and I had like 10 people. I always kind of say a different number. It was somewhere around like 7 to 10 people, whatever it was. There were not a lot of people there at all. Jon was one of those people. And you were pretty new to the area at that point. You'd only been here for like a couple months at that point. Yeah.
Yep, something like that.
Yeah. So Jon just decided to show up. I guess apparently you thought I was a center of influence or something because, we just had connected on Facebook and then I was throwing this event and you decided you were going to come attend and everything. And it was really cool. And then Jon helped me out there with doing some videoing, which was a whole other live stream video thing, which is a whole other nightmare there. So clearly I wasn't quite ready for my event either. And it was a lot of scrambling there. But needless to say, it was still a really cool opportunity to be able to get to know Jon more, especially when we hadn't even really built that relationship. But that's the kind of things that he does to be able to dive in and build relationships with people. And just to give more background on how we end up getting around to working with each other, this guy we met, and I was pretty much like, because I had already talked with several other financial advisors and got turned off by a lot of them. Like, look, dude, I'm already working with somebody. I've already got this, all these things. And he's like, okay, that's cool. And he just would go on and we talk about something else. We talk about my marriage at the time. Yeah, I had a daughter at the time too. So I'm like trying to make sure on the timeline there. Yes, I had a daughter. So he'd ask about her. He'd ask about my business. He would ask about all these things. And of course, we were going back and forth, getting to know each other and everything. But he wouldn't bring up finances. The only time he'd bring it up is if I asked a direct question like, hey, how are things going? Or whatever may come up, then he might answer it really quickly, but then he would move on to something else. He was always trying to make sure that I didn't feel like he was only getting to know me just to be able to do business with him. And so when you're doing networking, that's something that's very important to do. But I want you to dive in a little bit more because the strategies that you use besides getting to know people, you do some like connecting as well. And you talked about that a little bit over text or email. Why do you do that? And it's not like what I see a lot of times with people when they network, like, oh, I know somebody I can connect you with. And it's like one connection. And I don't know if it's just me because you and I have gotten to know each other well, but you seem to send me connections over time. It's not just one here and then done for 6 months. And, oh, by the way, here's another person. Like it's fairly consistent. I wouldn't say it's on a set schedule or anything, but it is fairly consistent that you seem to think of me and connect me with somebody. So how do you keep all that in your head, and how do you go about that process of making sure to connect people?
Sure. Yeah, we have a list. So we really have a list of kind of what people do and how they help people. And then I'm very intentional in that initial meeting of figuring out who would be a good partner for people. So whenever people ask me that question, I let them know, hey, I would love to meet accountants, CPAs, and things like that. And what I find when people are new to networking, a tip for people is they don't actually know who their strategic referral partners would be that could refer the most business back and forth. So I'd say start with figuring that out too if you're new to networking, because when I ask people that question, they can't think of anyone there, then there's no one for me to connect you with. And yeah, it's just all about really getting to know people, their business, their goals, and who could be helpful. And then as it comes up, when I'm having a lot of one on one coffees, lunches, happy hours, or events, or different things like that, then I'll listen. You got to listen well too. So that's another thing that I see people don't always do is they're not really listening. They're always thinking of the next thing that they need to say, and I work hard to really listen to people, and then I'm able to make those connections because I'm really genuinely engaged with them.
Yeah. And I've seen it too many times with so many people that I've also done networking with, where they're just sitting there on their phone, or they're halfway paying attention, and they're basically just waiting until it's their turn to talk about them and ask for what they need, instead of trying to really pour into the other person, which goes back to the power that you have with your networking skills, because you start pouring into everybody, and then it does end up coming back to you. But then we have the dark side of that. So with networking, obviously, the more you pour in, typically it's the more you get out of it. So you're going to have
Mhm.
more people liking you, you're going to have more people referring you or talking about you and things of that nature. And typically there's that law of reciprocity. But we know that there are the people out there that are just takers. They're never going to give back. So how do you handle those relationships? Because the first go around, you obviously don't know that they're just a taker. And maybe you do, but rarely does that ever happen. So how do you go about, I guess, maybe removing these people that are takers, or how do you handle those people that are just takers and aren't givers?
So I think that you can figure it out pretty quickly if they're not making connections back, or if it's all about them when you're staying in touch with them and different things like that. So the world, I would say the world is full of takers. It's rare to find givers. So, but I think most people are in it for themselves, and you can figure that out pretty quickly. I definitely have discernment with people, so I'm able to figure it out normally quicker than most. But yeah, I just kind of I only have so many hours in a day, so I have to eventually spend it with the time that also spend time with people who actually want to help us out too and want to help us grow our business too. So after that, then I'm constantly revamping our list of vendors that we refer business back and forth with, and also who we're spending our time with.
Okay, and then one, I guess, last question here with networking, because you being having been new to the area, Greenville's very unique. It seems like we have a ton of networking opportunities, but for people that aren't in the Greenville area, and I might make this a two-part question. So one, how do you or did you go about finding networking events when you first started?
Sure. So there's so many. I think nationwide, you just have to look them up, whether it's LinkedIn, Eventbrite, different types of social medias. You can go to there's chambers everywhere. You can go to your local chambers. There's lots of national networking groups and different things like that. And depending on your industry, there could be associations also. I know there's an industrial association here, then that's not a great place for me to network. So I don't go there, but it's a great place for other people to network. I would just find the centers of influences around town and look up the national networking groups and then the local events and figuring, but you need to figure out first who you're looking to connect with, and get your message down so you can talk to Philip about that first too. Otherwise, it's not going to be that beneficial. But I would figure those things out, and then I would just go to as many events as you can as humanly possible, and then develop the solid relationships. After you've developed the solid relationships, then you need to stay in touch with people. So if you just go to event to event and to event, but you don't have coffee with people, you don't have lunches or happy hours or whatever you want to do, it's a waste of time. The magic happens after you get the connection and when you stay in touch with people. So don't overwhelm yourself, be strategic about those events, and then get with people as you can. So I went to a lot of stuff because I didn't know anyone, but then I was getting their contact information and then we were building the relationship after the fact.
Hmm. Yeah, such a great point there. And you're exactly right that you need to go have that coffee or go have that one-on-one conversation. And while that does feel like, oh man, I'm not getting to meet as many people, but you're getting to have a deeper relationship and conversation with somebody. And then they can then refer you to other people. And that's what's happened with us both ways, where we have a conversation. Oh, I know somebody that I can connect you with, or I just met somebody recently. Let me connect them with you. But sometimes, even though we talk a lot of times, it's hard to keep each other top of mind because we have so many other things going on. So when we go back and have a coffee again, even though we know each other and we probably would be fine, especially being guys, not having another conversation again like that, it's still good to get together because, oh, yeah, by the way, here, talk to this person. Let me connect you real quick and stuff like that. And so these things come up. But I want to go to the other side real quick, to my two-part or second part of this question, because there's going to be a naysayer out there. Well, hey, I just can't find any networking events. Nothing works out for me. And I believe in the power, and I feel like this is where I've created my local influence, is creating your own event. And I know you've created several yourself as well. So first, how do you go about creating that event? And then second, like what do you create like a strategic partner? So I'm kind of looking like overall, like how do you go create the event? How do you promote that event? And how do you make sure that you have a good turnout for that event?
And there's naysayers for everything.
Oh yeah.
That's just people in general. That's a great point. Yeah, hosting your own events can be, if you're going to do them right, they can really be a lot of work. They require you promoting them often to get a good turnout. And people do, going back to the take or giver conversation, people really do have to feel like there's something in it for them if they're going to take time away from their family or making money in their business or as a salesperson in order to come to your event.
Yeah.
So I feel the message of what they're going to get out of it. So a lot of times we host events and it's about connections. It's not about sales pitches. A lot of times people will host events, but it's really a sales pitch about their products and services, and then the turnout often is not that great unless you're reaching the audience you want to reach who needs your products and services directly. So I think it's really being strategic about who you want to get to the event, what kind of value they're going to get, and then we often bring in sponsors to help with the cost of events, and then also invite their sphere of influences and different things like that. So then it's not just Lisa and I inviting people; it's a bunch of different people inviting people. We helped host a cocktail event, and we called it Cocktails and Connections with the people that own and run and lease out the offices that we have. And I think we had over 100 people. And it
Wow.
was just a casual get together. And now people are asking us to do it again. So, we didn't know how many people were going to show and everything like that, but people knew there was going to be value, there was going to be giveaways, they were going to be able to connect with great people. So then they ended up coming.
Nice. That's real cool. And it's funny you mentioned about like making sure you don't pitch and everything. I just did a workshop yesterday of this recording, but it was supposed to be on elevator pitches, so we called it a pitch fest.
Nice.
So that was a decent turnout. We had 16 people signed up. Unfortunately, only 6 showed up, but it was also 2 hours from like 3 to 5. So timing, there's all these things that are factors within all of that you got to work with and make sure you're marketing right. And what I found as well, and you probably found this the same way, is really sending out a personal invite. You can't just post on social media And you can't just put it into Facebook groups. You really have to start inviting people personally and say, hey, would love to have you here at the event. Make sure you sign up, stuff like that. And so that's just it. So, but let's move on, man. We've been talking tons about networking. I'm sure you're like, I'm tired of this because believe it or not, Jon didn't tell you, but Jon actually doesn't like going to networking events. He's actually more of an introverted person. And so it really drains him of energy, yet he still goes out there and does that. So if you have an excuse for why you're not networking because you don't know people, you're new to the area, you're shy, you're introverted, Jon had a lot of those same excuses he could have used, but he didn't. And he's been doing pretty well for himself and made a name for himself here in the local area. So get rid of those excuses and just go start networking today. But let's move on into this fun conversation of talking about the thing that we love to talk about most with our spouse, and that is finances. Some of y'all probably thinking sex over there. Get out of the gutter. We're talking about finances, guys. But Jon, tell us, and I know this is super open or super broad, but can you give us some advice of how we can approach a spouse, especially one that's really not on board with talking about numbers and money, how we can approach them to get them on board to be able to talk about finances, because that's an important thing in the household, which is like what number one or number two reason why people get a divorce in the first place. So why is it not the number one or number two thing that we talk about most often? So how do we go about that conversation?
Yeah, that can be tough conversations and cause a lot of issues. Like you said, I'm pretty sure it's number one. And I remember one where I come from. So I think as spouses, you also need to remember you both come from completely different families and backgrounds and education. And the key is to get on the same page. And that would be through working together to educate yourselves about finances and financial literacy. That is really the key. And then selling your spouse the bigger picture of what it's going to lead to, because there's so many things out there. People think budgeting is bad. It's a bad word, right? It's naughty. So we often call it a spending plan because that sounds better. But once you do the things that you're scared of because you haven't done it before, or you saw your parents fight about money, so now you just think let's just not talk about it is the solution. There's so much empowerment once you actually educate yourself and take the steps. And when my wife and I also own our business together, and our mentors taught us that you want to grow together. If one of you is doing self development and the other, you're growing apart. So you need to really focus on growing together and learning that stuff together and doing self development together so you can grow and you can be on the same page.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough thing if you're both growing at different rates. Essentially, we're all growing in some way, but it's at different rates for sure. Yeah, that gap gets wider and wider and wider. I think we see that a lot of times with entrepreneurs, or when you have one person that's a business owner in the relationship and the other one's not. It's definitely a tough thing because you're over here trying to build this thing and all these stresses and whatnot. But going back to the finances, so let's go with the scenario here. So let's say I'm the one that's kind of taking care of finances, but my wife is not. And I feel, being a guy, I feel like guys have to struggle with this a little bit more than women, but it could be, the roles could be flipped here. But it seems like, okay, I want to look at the numbers. I want to start trying to budget, maybe not like super hardcore. We know exactly where every dollar is. We're going to do the Dave Ramsey style where you get this much money and this is all you get and you can't spend anymore, things like that. No credit, whatever. How do you go about having that conversation? Because what I've seen from other friends and was my own personal experience was, okay, I'm going to create this budget based around kind of what we're already doing. Nothing's really changed, but trying to create that plan. And then I try and present this plan to my wife. And of course, if I'm like, hey, here's the allowance that you get, and we both have the same allowance, and then this spending thing, it's like, allowance. Like that's another dirty word. Like you can't tell me what I'm
Yes.
going to get. I'm not a child. So how do we go bring this whole budget spending plan into the relationship when it's just from one side?
Yeah, that's tough. I do think actually, if we did the stats though, most women run the finances
Yeah.
in the relationship. So it's normally
Well,
I'm
that's what I
actually
meant.
having
Like,
the
so that's why I said, like, I think it's a little bit tougher because at the end of the day, yeah, a lot of times it's like the woman kind of makes the decision, even if the guy's kind of organizing it. It's still based on what the woman wants more than the guy wants, kind of thing. But, anyways,
I think it all comes down to selling the bigger picture.
mhm.
So, one of the things that we do for our clients is we are always starting with the end in mind, and we're often running what's called a financial independence number for people. And we show them how much per month they need to actually be putting away in order to hit their goals and dreams. So, I've ran into that scenario so many times, and I'll probably run in it later today when I have conversations with people. So no, two, don't beat yourself up if you're in that situation. That's normal. And it's a really tough conversation. So no, you're not alone. And I think whichever spouse is more, whether it's the husband or the wife, no matter who it is, whether you're the one who's more financially savvy or not, it's whoever is really needs to sit down with them, and you need to do things together versus separately. And then you need to really sell the bigger picture. Like, hey, if we're disciplined here and we put away, let's say, a couple $100 a month, and then it's worth millions of dollars by the time we retire, that would get them to see the end of the value of actually doing it. I think a lot of times people they don't understand the value of, if they do it and if they stick to the plan, similar to working out, what's going to happen at the end. And yes, you're not going to see results right away, and yes, you're going to have fights. Yes, you're not going to want to go work out, or you're not going to want to stick to the plan. But if you do, this is what can actually happen for your family. And often, especially when people have kids or grandkids, when those are involved, and you show the value of what can be done for the kids or the grandkids and future generations. And I don't come from a financial background, if I didn't do a good job of explaining that earlier. For those of you that I don't know, my dad is a pastor, mom's a nurse, my sister's a social worker, my other sister's a stay-at-home mom of 6 kids. No one in my family, cousins, aunts, uncles, run businesses. They don't have that entrepreneurial mindset either. So talking to them about stuff, often I'm on this spectrum, they're on another. And they don't see things from my perspective, and I don't see things from their perspective, but we really focus on finding common ground. That is the key, and finding out what's important. So if something's important to your spouse, you'll probably have a different priority than they do. Maybe you're really excited about investing and they're really excited about buying a new home. So it's really figuring out together what's important to each other, and then including that and coming up with plans together and getting on the same page.
Okay. And yeah, I think that vision is such an important thing that we really need to paint, because then you'll find out maybe either you're completely not aligned or maybe you are more aligned than you think. And then figuring out from there what steps to take and everything. And so let's say that the spouses, they obviously want to have like a nice comfortable retirement, they want to have a few things, some cars or house and a good savings account, but they also want to invest. How would you tell them to navigate those conversations? Or I don't want us to go into like how you would advise somebody, because obviously everybody's different, so it's kind of hard to say this fits for them. But how would you tell somebody to kind of navigate that conversation and maybe kind of come up to some agreements and compromises with each other to help each other hit their vision of what their financial plan would look like?
Great question. I think that putting a plan together is always the first step. Always start with a plan, not products, and list out your priorities in order of importance, and then compare them.
Hmm.
I would highly recommend. That's what we do with people once we're done doing the consult is we actually have them list their top priorities. What are the things you want to take care of now? What are the things that you want to take care of later or later on, as we stay in touch? And I
Mm,
would say that you and your spouse can do the same thing. You could really figure out what are your top priorities? What are the things that you're able to take care of today? And what are some things that are going to have to be pushed to the future? And that's okay. That's normally where people start as they're increasing their income, is they're often not able to take care of all the things they want to take care of and all their goals, and then they can work on that. That's where the plan comes in and a roadmap of what they can do today and what they're going to have to do later on. But we won't know that unless we know what your top priorities are.
yeah. Okay. And then you made me think of this, like with income increasing. Again, I'm going to throw the caveat out there for you that this is just general. This is not specific to anybody. But when it comes to increase in pay or year over year, I know that I've seen it with the 401k plan that I have, that they have the option of like adding 1% each year. So like you, instead of you contributed 6% this year and the next year it's 7%. So it's slowly more and more, but you don't notice it because it's only 1% at a time instead of, well, I was contributing 6%. Now I'm doing 25%. And you're like, oh crap, I've got no money. So how
Mhm.
would you tell people to navigate both just trying to increase the amount they contribute to any kind of savings, investment, whatever, and then also when they get like an income increase, what they, some general things maybe they could do to help make sure that they don't just start blowing that money and never really saving or investing any money.
Yeah, with that, those are great points and questions. With that, I it's you got to start where you're at now would be the first thing, and it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to change up the way that you're doing things, but if you can't manage a little bit of money, you're not going to be able to manage it when you have lots of money. People think that, oh, I'll get to it when I'm making X amount. No, that's not what actually happens. Then you're 50 or 60, and then you're calling me and you're freaking out because you haven't saved any money. And it's really hard to make up those years. It's actually not possible
Yeah.
to really make it up unless you're like a business owner. We would have been able to do miracles for business owners. But with that, those auto escalate. You got to start with something. So even if it's small, a small amount with saving and investing can make a huge difference for you and your family. So I'd say start small and then do those auto increases. Most people actually don't even notice them. Why are a lot of states now mandating that businesses have a 401k plan? Because it's the easiest way to save. And we are a discipline challenged society. And when it's not just automatically taken out of our paycheck, we end up not doing it. And those have been proven. If you don't believe me, you can do your own research. There's many large accounting firms and auditing firms and different things like that that have done studies on that. So yeah, that's a great tip from you, Philip, of putting in those little auto increases on your investments and savings. Most people don't notice if it's just automatic out of their bank account or automatically out of their paycheck if you do that.
Yeah. And then one last question, kind of based on what you said there. And you probably know the actual statistic or number because you're obviously in that space. But I've heard something about, was it some guy, I can't even think of his name, famous scientist, talks about like the compound interest is like the seventh wonder of the world or whatever additional wonder of the world. And I saw somewhere one time it's like if you invest from 20 to 30 only and you put say $100,000 in, or if you start at 30 and invest that same amount of money, or maybe it's like $300 a month or something like that, there's a certain age point where like you just can't make up for that compound interest versus that person that put $300 a month, let's say from 20 to 30 versus 300 a month from 30 to 65 when they retired. Is that kind of true? I mean, just to kind of put emphasis on like start now, don't start when you're ready.
Yeah, I believe it was Albert Einstein who said that. So
That's
a
the name. I
smart
couldn't think of
smart
it.
guy. Yeah, that's a great concept to cover. I can happy to cover that. So the rule of 72, if you take 72 into the interest rate you expect to receive, it tells you the approximate number of years that it's going to take for your monies to double. And what Philip's kind of pointing out is you lose those years the longer that you wait. And that's why it's really key to start now. Obviously, we can't go back in time, but starting wherever you're at and just start, even if it's with a small amount, it makes a huge difference because you have those years for your money to double. I know with having a 4-month-old daughter, that was one of my priorities. But once she got a social security number, I'm like, hey, we need to start saving and investing for her future because a small amount could just go so far for her and her future. We probably won't tell her about it until she's much older, but that it just makes such a difference. So yeah, I would challenge all the listeners to research the rule of 72. It's a simple concept, but it really shows you the value of starting now and starting your investments and savings and the difference it can make for those years that your money can double. And it's really important too that you'll notice the difference in interest rates make a huge difference on how many years it takes your money to double, which is another important thing to be looking at.
Hmm. Okay, well, good deal. And that I think that there could help with casting that vision as well to your spouse if they're not on board. Hey, we need to start doing this because look, if we wait another 5 years until we're in a more comfortable financial spot, look how much less money we're going to have at retirement, or maybe it's not retirement, maybe it's just like 10 years from now. How much less money will we have saved up if we don't start now? So we need to figure out ways to be able to start now because and you could tell this to your spouse. I don't know about you, but I definitely don't want to work until I'm dead. I want to be able to stop at some point and everything. So have that conversation. That's actually came up my personal relationship when we started the financial planning. Well, we talked about, until 65. And my wife's like, I don't want to work till I'm 65. I'm fine with working. At least for now, I say I'll be fine working until 65. Maybe 10 years from now it might be different, but she already was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so that changed the financial plan right then and there. And of course, if anything else happens, so make sure you're having these tough conversations with your spouse. And of course, you can get with Jon if you need more help with that, because he's my personal financial advisor. And he's just a all around great guy. And like I said, I wanted to bring him on to be able to talk about networking, talk about having these tough conversations and everything. But Jon, let's go ahead and get to our last question. And that question is, if you could only share one message for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Financial independence.
Of course. Anything more specific that you can get into with that?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So I just think that I would just challenge people to find a way that no matter if you're a W-2 employee, no matter if you're a business owner, I would challenge the people on the call today to find a way to get to financial independence. Whether that takes you a long amount of time or a little a bit of time, because I just know so many people that are financially independent that have done our business or have done other things that just how much it's changed their life. And with that inflation, inflation continues to go up, go up, go up, but people's wages are not keeping up. So I love what people like you are doing, Philip, which is you got your job, but then you also have a side business. So I would tell people find some ways. If you need to, some people don't need to increase your income so you can get to financial independence quicker, whether that's real estate, our business, doing another business, or something like that. I would just tell people to do that and get a plan to get there as quickly as you want to do that.
And what's your definition of financial independence? Because I mean, I get, okay, financial independence, but exactly does that mean?
Yeah, great question. It is not having to worry about money at all. And if you choose that, hey, I don't have to do to do my business anymore. I don't have to do my job anymore. We have enough invested and saved, and we have an amazing distribution plan that we know with confidence we're never going to outlive our money, and it just keeps coming in. So it's really the financial independence is when people I feel like are living off of their businesses and their investments and everything like that without a concern.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you elaborating on that definition. And yes, you definitely do talk a lot about financial independence. It's awesome to see. But John, if people want to connect with you and just get to know you more, or maybe even have a conversation with you about business, where's the best place for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I don't know if the QR code will work when it's recording. You can tell me, you're more techie than I am. I don't know if that will work, but I do have the
Yeah, I think it should on YouTube. So if people are watching on YouTube, but if they're not and they're listening on the podcast, obviously the QR code won't be there. So we
got
need
it.
some other
That
way.
makes sense. So I'm if you type me in on Facebook or LinkedIn, Jon Vander Hook, you'll find me. I'll come up pretty quickly. If you're watching, you can scan the QR code. If not, my phone number is 720-341-9787. That's our office number. So yeah, if you want to get a hold of me or anybody else on our team, we'd love to have conversations with you.
Awesome. Well, John, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing this awesome value and helping us talk a little bit about finances, which is a tough conversation to have, but hopefully that will give the audience some ideas of what they can do to have that tough conversation a little bit easier.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Philip. Appreciate you, man.